to Prism, podcast of the University of the Philippines College of Architecture. The Prism project is an electronic newsletter published by the gender team at the University of the Philippines College of Architecture, published 3 times every semester. It informs UP College of Architecture faculty, staff, and students of relevant developments, updates, events, and news concerning gender equality and women's empowerment in our community, profession, and extension work. The gender team also shares best practices of the work of colleagues and students. No matter who you are or the color of your skin, you are welcome in Prism. This is Sarah Musavi, and I would like to invite you to listen in our second Women's Month 2023 podcast with myself, Xander, and Kate.
Hello, everyone, and thanks again for tuning in to Prism Podcast. I am Xander Laxton, your former Gender and Development focal point for the College of Architecture at the University of the Philippines. I'd like to welcome you to our Women's Month Podcast 2023 to celebrate everything about women. Hopefully, you'll have new and interesting insights into the empowerment of women in today's world. Today, we have two members of faculty again with us. Sarah Musavi, our new Gender and Development focal point, and Cathe Nadal, our former college secretary. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kate
Good
and there.
Hi, Cathe. Hi, Sarah. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us. We'd like to welcome you as our new Gender and Development focal point, and we'd like to assure you that you have all our support.
Thank you, Xander. I'm very happy to be part of GAD team. And thank you, Kate, for joining us for today's podcast.
My pleasure, Sarah and Sander. I'm also excited to start this conversation with you this afternoon.
Cathe, thank you so much for joining us. But before we begin, we're just so curious about, is there a message that you would like to give our community at UPCA? And first of all, we'd also like to congratulate you as well for a job well done for being college secretary this past 3 years.
Thank you. Message for everyone. I guess just continue your journey with the college, and I hope you also support the incoming college secretary, Professor Edra Belga.
Okay, thank you so much, Kate. So I guess to start off right now, I'll pass it on to our new gender and development focal point, Sarah.
Okay, very excited for today's podcast. I'll start with two questions. My first question would be, what does Women's Month mean to you?
So, Women's Month is all about the celebration of womanhood or women and their lives. And I do appreciate that at least once a year we have a month dedicated to us women. And I hope eventually a lot of people will recognize all the important women in the world and in our lives during this month. So far, that's Women's Month for me. It's a celebration of every women in the world.
Thank you, Kate. I'd like to ask also, before we go to the second question, who are the role models in your life or in your career? Would you like to share with us, like any names or any woman in your life?
Oh, I've always been vocal that some of the significant women in my life include my mother and my aunt, who are both my mom because she raised me well and she's been guiding me through and through. My aunt because I've seen how she has dedicated her life not just to because she's not married during the earlier times of the year of her life, so she's been a good aunt to all of us, guiding us whenever we want additional guidance from someone else aside from my parents. With regards to my career, Sarah, you know how
Yeah.
Ma'am Zenny has always
Yes.
been the one of the most significant person in the landscape architecture industry, and she's been like a mother to us, and
Yes.
I've always seen her as that, even during our undergrad years. I've also been one another significant person is whom we call Mama Bear or Ma'am Beth Espino, who has also been a good person to consult about everything related to government service, because she's been one of the landscape architects who really went into uh, government offices, or who really worked in government officers to prove our role in that part of our profession. So far, I think those are the elders that I can say are the significant women in my life right now.
Yes, and I 100% I agree with you about our mothers being our first role model, right? And from here also, I like to say hi also to Mom Zeni, if ever she's listening. She's also my role model when I was taking my master's, and I like to really say thank you, Mom Zeni, from here. Sander, you'd like to say something also about your role
Well,
models?
oh well, I mean,
Yeah.
like my female role models. I must say though that I also would like to commend Ma'am Zani Galingan. We were not so well acquainted, but also I would like to send my best regards to Ma'am Espina. Ma'am Espina, if you're listening right now, this is Xander. Thank you so much for all the love and support that you have shown. Even though that you were the dean when I was already an alumni and not really part of the smaller UPCA community. So, but regarding female role models, I would really say that I really admire Michelle Obama. And in our last Prism podcast, which is actually later on, Kate, we will tell you that we have a pop quiz at the end of this podcast. But I mentioned that in that podcast that I really admire Cory Aquino. Um,
That's true.
really, whether one is a woman or a man, if one would undergo the circumstances that she went through back then in the 80s, she was really such a courageous woman. And I totally admire that. Thank you so much for that question, Sarah.
All right, okay. My second question would be, have you faced any barriers in your career as a woman? And if you did, how did you overcome those barriers?
Oh, I think this is very common in female landscape
Yeah.
architects or architects in general, that when you go to sites, a lot of people won't really look or respect you the way they would
Yes.
respect a man. And I've encountered that once, wherein I went to a site because I was already a landscape architect, and I was assigned by the design
Yes.
principal, who was my boss
Mhm.
then, to go to one of the sites to inspect it. But then, of course, I arrived there. I know everything because I know I designed it. I was part of the design team, but of course, they wouldn't like to listen to what I'm saying. So I recall that moment because that's when I had to step up and tell them that I can design, and sometimes it's you just need to speak up as a woman. It doesn't really mean that you don't know anything, but every time you are put down like that, you have to really let them know that you know things. And ever since, I think that's when they started respecting me. I think another barrier or another way to overcome that was to dress differently, which was very difficult for me because I really like to dress up like a woman.
Yes.
But then, right? But then you have
Yeah.
to really make sure that they respect you. So I had to make sure that I look older, or I look more, no, I can't say more masculine, but I have to wear clothes that are more, that they call as more appropriate to the setting. And sometimes it removes my femininity in how I dress up. But then yeah, that's the only way I can prove my point before they start respecting me, not just as a woman, but a female landscape architect.
Thank you, Kate, for sharing all of your moments, right? Um, Sander?
Kate, I'm just so curious. What is your way forward in the next 3 to 5 years as a woman?
Oh, at present, I will be the incoming head of the National Committee in Architecture and Allied
Yes,
Art.
congratulations.
Yeah, and it's quite a big role to be in, and I do believe that it's funny though because there's really I think I was the only woman when we among the heads of the subcommission of the arts, and being among the male population in that committee, it was so fun to also hear their points of view, and hopefully I can represent the female artist in that artistic committee. With regards to our subcommittee, we do have a lot of female representation, and I'm really happy to also see them heading all the different organizations, because they are the representations of the different organizations, and I like to see that the arts community is actually represented by a lot of women in that part. I'm stepping in as the head after Mom Zenny Galingan is also the head like a few years ago, and it is fun to see that, yeah, in architecture and allied arts, another woman, me, will be representing it again, and I hope I can lead the team as needed, and as hopefully to uphold the culture and arts in the Philippines in that sense.
Definitely, Kate. It sounds like your next few years sound really, really exciting and challenging, and we're very excited for your success. One more question comes to mind, considering that you have just recently completed your PhD degree. Congratulations. And Sarah is also on her way to completing her
Yes,
PhD
I
as
know.
well. Would you like to talk a little bit, just a little bit more about like what do you think about women and education?
Oh, it's funny though because in the College of Architecture before, you thought it would be like predominantly male, but at present I think we have a growing number of females, right? Leading the college, and just during the last administrative term, three of us women are heading the
Yes.
college. Dean Grace, Assistant Dean Faith, and me as the college secretary. And it's really funny because during that time they were calling us Powerpuff Girls because we're like three women, and with all this power
Yeah.
um heading the college. But I do hope they've seen the changes that we've done, given that I mean, honestly, I was only there for two terms, because during the first year of Dean Grace deanship, I was still in the UK finishing my PhD. And and then I think during that year it was college secretary Sharon Perion who was there, and well, she's also a female. But it was quite challenging also not to um not to put down the character of leadership of a female, because honestly, it's not that I want to put down all the males there, pero sobrang detalyado talaga nating kumilos, and I do believe that it was that type of leadership that I am very proud of as of now, because aside from Dean Grace also trained us to very well, because she's the top, our boss during that time. So I hope more people will also see the value of that in women, like how we can also um, give empathy while leading the. I think that's one thing that I've always noticed about female leaders, that empathy is on top of leadership, and that we always put that or we always think of how we were able to feel. I think that's also one thing, we really feel the staff, like we try to make sure that they are okay, or we try to put kindness in all our activities, and I do hope that is what I was able to show through our leadership.
Definitely having women such as you, Kate, in positions of authority, and not just authority but leadership, shows us that we are really striving better to have women empowerment, but we still have a lot more to do.
Okay, thank you. We are so proud of you also. Lastly, I'd like to ask if you have any message of inspiration for our audience you would like to share.
Yeah, I guess for those who are listening right now, given that Sarah and I were both teaching in the university, and if you are also part of the University of the Philippines, I do hope you see the value of not just the services that we give, not just for women, but to strive equality among women and all gender types. And you're very lucky because the university has been very vocal about striving equality and empowering women in that way. um, I encourage everyone to also be open about their insights on gender and development, because that is very important. I came not just from the university, but also I've been abroad for almost 4 years, and I really see the difference of how we are of how we um, address women's rights and gender inequality here versus that of where I came from to study my PhD. And I have a big vision for the college and for the university that soon we will also be that. We will be at par with how strong our voices are with regards to this matter. And I'm very glad that Sander and Sarah has started this podcast for us to be heard by a bigger population, or a bigger number, a larger number of people about women and gender inequality there.
Thank you so much, Kate, and we definitely join you in that vision. But again, one more thing before we end, we'd like to give you a one question pop quiz. Uh,
Okay.
if you don't mind, our question is: if you were to choose three women in the world, whether they are present still in the world or not, who were these three women that you would choose to have dinner with?
Well, I always have this quote in my table, and I've brought it home and I tried to clean my office. So that's Mother Teresa is one. Michelle Obama is another one, because I always like her way of dressing up. But the other one is Miley Cyrus. It's just that I really want to know how she thinks, because I do love her music, but at the same time I do love her courage to speak about all the relationships in her life. So it's just like another a twist to the other two that I've chosen.
Okay, very interesting choices. We really love your choices. Thanks so much, Kate. And we'd like to thank you, Kate, and also our new gender and development focal point.
Thank you, Kate, also, and thank you, Xander.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. And this is another episode of our Women's Month 2023 release at Prism Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I would like to thank Kay for her time and also for sharing with us her experiences. And just like what she mentioned, empathy is on top of the leadership. And let us put kindness in all our activities. I would like to invite all of you to join our gender team. You can also contribute to Prism Project, newsletter, and podcast. For gender equality, equity, and empowerment of women. I am Sarah, and I would like to invite you again to listen in next time.